Trauma Therapist Podcast Plus listeners can listen to episodes early and ad-free right now. Become a Plus listener by going to Apple Podcasts, searching for the Trauma Therapist Podcast, and signing up today. All right, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. My mission is to help trauma therapists be their incredible selves, to be human, to be real, not just a clinician. I'm a big believer in who we are is more important than what we know. And this requires cultivating authenticity, genuineness, and vulnerability, and that requires intention. You can learn more about my courses and workshops by going to thetraumatherapistproject.com. That's thetraumatherapistproject.com. Let's get started. All right, so 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Very excited to have it back. Esther Goldstein. Esther, welcome.
So happy to be here. Happy 2024.
Awesome. So Esther Goldstein LCSW is a psychotherapist and trauma specialist with a private practice in Cedarhurst, Long Island, New York. She specializes in treating anxiety, trauma, complex PTSD, and dissociative disorders. Esther provides trauma-informed consultation to therapists committed to improving their trauma-informed practice and attachment-focused EMDR consultation to therapists attaining hours towards EMDRIA certification. Esther, welcome back.
So happy to be here.
All right. So we're going to talk about coming home to our bodies. What does that mean to you?
Coming home. Yeah. I think, first of all, I just want to thank you so much just for existing. I remember that I came to your podcast many years ago. It's always been a rich resource. I'm remembering the first conversation I had on here, the second, which, by the way, I got incredible feedback from.
Oh, so awesome.
So I just want to tell you.
Appreciate that.
We're just talking about the concept of coming home to our bodies. And I think that sometimes, not sometimes, well, we were talking briefly, this thing called life is an interesting one. Actually, one of the things I have been focusing on recently, besides for my group practice, is really supporting therapists, like with their trauma-informed therapy skills. I have consultation groups and a training. And one of the things that I realized is that I don't know if it's always a matter of like finding the, like the golden nugget or like the silver bullet or some like brilliant intervention or skill or piece of knowledge for our clients. But it's about helping our clients find a way to tolerate being in their body. And then over time, finding a sense of home in their body. And so I just wondered if we could talk about that as humans, as people. I know it's been a lot of my own life work. What does it mean to connect with my body? What does it mean to get to understand the cells in my body, the neuropsychological experience, and coming home, how I think life is a matter of like coming home again and again. Yeah.
I love that concept. I don't know if I've heard it articulated exactly like that. So what does that look like? You talked about, well, I don't know if it's about finding that right specific intervention so much as kind of inviting your clients back to their, what does that look like? How do you do that?
Okay. I love how you ask questions and you're like, it sounds cool, but like, how do I actually do that? I'll tell you why I'm bringing out this topic now, because I know that when I was younger, I used to be like, hey, I'm doing this training and then I'm doing that training. And so many times I was so busy in the rush. And a lot of it was like, on the one hand, this hunger to learn and also like insecurity of, am I actually helping people? And then as I grew as a person and as I did my own work and as I started supporting other therapists in doing, trauma work or somatic informed work. And I just finished my 3-year sensory motor training, and I've done a lot of somatic work. What I realized is that the goal for ourselves as therapists or anyone in the helping field, as parents, and especially for our clients as well, is to be able to embody our bodies. And what does that mean? Okay, so just coming back, I think that one of the most frightening things, one of the reasons why we drop like the Esther Goldstein rushing to trainings, right? the concept of rushing. I just hopped off of a consulting with one of my staff right before our call. And she has this client that's like rushing and like, are we doing attachment work? Are we working on this kind of attachment issue? Are we working on this anxiety? And I was thinking about the concept of rushing and how a lot of times as human beings, not just New Yorkers, but we have a part of us that has this tendency to rush, right? There's different survival strategies that the mind and body go to when we're faced with a lot of like anxiety or fear, or maybe we have different kind of struggles or our clients have struggles. And I think one of the biggest pieces, at least I found for myself, is that although I was always a person who like looked outward, a lot of the answers were within myself. Wait, stay with me, because I hate when people say, you just need yourself. All the answers lie within yourself. But I had to learn, and I've done this with clients, and I see this with therapists as well, because your clients can sniff if you're not in your own body. You can't tell them to come home to their body if you're not in your own body. Is, can I notice the emotions and the sensations and the language of my body and be with it? Because living life, our body, the sensations, the thoughts, the feelings are so many times. Sometimes they feel nice and sometimes they feel scary and sometimes they feel uncomfortable. Not sometimes, a lot of times. And learning to orient to like our lives, our minds, our bodies, our experiences from the past, the present, and the future is honestly where I think the answer lies. And I'm happy to talk about like, how do we do that? But I just want to say that as like, that's like a goal, I think, for most people living this thing called life, if they want to do it okay or well.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And I agree with that. And as you're talking about that, I'm realizing that it's something I'm guilty of myself. I mean, it's hard. And especially when you're talking about people who've experienced trauma. It's like, I don't want to be in my body. I don't trust my body. It's scary, but it's, how do you as a therapist invite someone to do that? What does that look like?
Yeah. First of all, one of the scariest things when we've gone through trauma or when our clients have gone through trauma and when there's a lot of stress, right? Then what happens is that we develop this like phobic avoidance to sensation or experience. Phobic avoidance is kind of like when I have this phobia, this fear, and avoidance because I'm going to avoid something that makes me uncomfortable. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to run as far away from that as possible. And some people do that with the rushing, right? Overworking, numbing out, drinking alcohol, maybe having certain behaviors. Other people do it by kind of spacing out, getting disconnected. Other people might have that with like chronic anxiety. Everybody's body and mind have different ways of coping with whatever the feeling inside or the thought or the fear is. So the way that I think is really helpful, I could just speak like the language of humans, right? Just stop for 1 second. I saw a quote the other day that was talking about how like the opposite of disconnection isn't like connection. It's not a matter of like, oh, you're pushing away, so I'm going to reach for you. It's like presence. It's presence. Like, be present with me. And it said the opposite of danger isn't safety. It's connection. The opposite of danger, isn't safety. It's connection, right? Like secure connection. So when you're talking about trauma, I think the ways that we help people to be able to come back home to themselves is when you're terrified. When I see the face of terror on your face, okay? I'm not telling you to face the terror. I see the terror and I'm here. So number one, because one of the most terrifying things, we all know this, when we go through trauma or pain or any kind of experience where we feel misunderstood or confused, right? Or violated, is that we feel disconnected from our minds and bodies. Right? We feel disconnected from ourselves. And then it feels horrible to be a hollow person walking around the world feeling nothing or feeling too much, right? We're disconnected from others. And just the experience of having someone be present with you in that experience and maybe like saying something, if that's appropriate, or just their presence, that is the first thing of like, I'm here with you. And even if there's only 5% of the cells in your body present, because 95% of you is dissociating or is disconnected because it's too painful, I'm here. with however much of you is here or with the pain that your body is holding.
Just being able to share that with another human being is very powerful.
I think sharing that, and I think being the presence of, I could just speak for my own self. Like I, as a human being, as a therapist, as a friend, as a mom, like I can sense when somebody is present, when somebody could feel with me in my pain, when somebody can hold with me in whatever it is and has capacity. And I think that like one of the biggest pieces, one of the biggest gifts we can give people is that holding space. Like we know that, right? You know, some people like they ask you, how are you? And they stay there and they hold a gaze, or they're with you and they're okay with whatever it is you say. And there's other people that are like, how are you?
Right.
Right. So I'm here. I think, and I just have to say, because I'm going to add on to this, because you're asking the second piece, just so you know, about how do we help people be in their bodies, is we want to help, like, I guess this is where it comes into the somatic piece, is that we want to help the body, like the cellular memory of the body, lessen some of the burden, the pain, or whatever it is, like the template, like the stamp that was stamped on the person, right? On like their somatic memory, to lessen the impact so they can actually be in their skin in a way that doesn't feel as uncomfortable. And I think part of our ability to be present, like I can be present with a client's trauma or pain or burdens or whatever it is they're holding, when I feel confident and skilled enough to take them there. Meaning they might not be ready for one session, 2 sessions, 6 months, a year. But if I feel confident and skilled, and if I'm not frightened by whatever it is they're holding, they'll feel that. And then when they're ready, I'm going to take them there.
What is required of you as a therapist to get to that point? You talked about being skilled and ready and so forth. How does one get there? How does one develop that?
Yeah. I think it's a combination of things. So I think one of the ways is by deepening your capacity to connect, and connect could be with yourself. I mean, it always starts with ourselves. To connect with ourselves, with others, and then with our clients. I'm just going to simplify this. So I know for myself, like there was a time where, like I've written blogs that people have like thanked me for. And I was thinking, and they're very heartfelt, all right, like stories, or I'll just share. And I remember thinking, like, what is it sometimes about a blog that I'll write or a conversation I have that people feel so resonant about? And it was the articles or the conversations that I had when I was very connected to my own self, when I was really embodying what I was talking about, which, by the way, doesn't mean that I was perfect. Sometimes I was actually even like struggling with the concept, but I was like, there's not a blog out there, or there isn't enough conversation around this topic. And this is something that I'm navigating, or this is something I'm seeing so many clients struggling with. Let's have some real conversations about it. Give it some space on this planet. So I think it's the noticing capacities to connect. And even if you notice like that you connect or disconnect, understanding your own survival strategies, knowing the times that you check in or out. So like first, even just like intellectually understanding what your template is. That's like the basic psychoeducation, like, oh, I'm a bit more avoidant, or oh, I'm a bit more anxious, or oh, I actually have a tendency to intellectualize, understanding yourself. And I think the other piece is like learning to be more present in your body. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be 100% present, because we all have times that we're more or less. But like practically, look, I think it's like getting good somatic training. That's what I'm super passionate about. Like when I run team meetings every Monday, we have a 2-hour team meeting. My staff always say, they're like, Esther, because I start with like a meditation. We just start with meditation to drop into our bodies or notice what's going on. And then we'll talk about like a strength, a struggle, and a need. And then we dive into of each person. And then we dive into clinical consult. And they're like, Esther, you have such a calm demeanor. I don't know if some of it's calm and it's the work that I've done and I'm committed to doing as a person, but some of it's that There's somatic skills that I've learned, but that I've also embodied, right? Like I've learned somatic skills. I've had consultants look at my work, and I've received somatic therapy. So there's prosody, there's tone, there's like intonations, there's learning to read people's body language or the muscle tone. And so it's not that you're like seeing through them. I remember one consultant was like, we're going to help you learn to read the language or the beliefs of people's bodies. And I was like, so do you see all of our negative beliefs or traumas written all over us? And she started laughing. I'm like, I don't want to know, but it's not that. It's more of like being able to pick up on like even your own body, like, wow, I noticed that I'm really hunched in these environments. I feel really small. Right. So I think embodying the work, is it
if I may, so are you saying that awareness that you have, that you've developed, allows you then to be more aware, be more sensitive, be more vulnerable when you're in a relationship with a client?
First of all, it's made me do my own work. Like I have to say, like my training in somatic work, people always say, oh, so you have these skills. Just to take away the whole professional veneer for 1 second. I think any really good training really helps us change as people. And I remember in like the 3rd level, like I remember one of the trainers said, I was like, we're all so emotional. She's like, all your inner children are running around the room. Like I don't have any adults present, A lot of the work is about like working with child state, working with core emotions, working with a lot of emotional fragility, because we have to practice those interventions on each other. And so if we just like the trainings, or I would say like learning certain skills with the right kind of obviously trainers that are honest and trusting and are secure enough for us to do the work. I think like knowing what I've done is that it's made me it's helped me like know my own inner world better. I think I might have shared this, but I might sound redundant. But I remember telling one of my trainers, I was like, what? Like, I thought this training would just make me like smarter and like more skilled and just have all these like fancy interventions. Like you're making me look inside of myself. It's really uncomfortable. Like I'm seeing a whole new layer of anxiety. And she like chuckled with like a wise chuckle. She's like, listen, like life, sometimes getting to know yourself more or getting to know yourself on an even deeper level is the work. It's not that you're like patching things up and suddenly everything's good and now you're an expert. It's just being able to actually go a little deeper and tolerate and be with all of that which is within you. And almost like getting to develop relationships with your own internal emotional experiences, memories, beliefs. So it was I just have to say, it was like a very uncomfortable journey. It just had like doing the trainings. It's not like, it's right. It's very raw. It's very fragile. At the same time, it's almost like mothering my own self, or like embodying more of my own emotional world, which then I think translates into having less of a reaction to other people's very intense emotion. So you don't think about it so much, but I think that's what happens, where there's more of like capacity to notice, okay, that person is having this. Oh, okay, my internal world isn't as reactive because it's more like settled, because I'm kind of more whole. Actually, not that I'm perfect, but I'm more like integrated as a human. And so I can notice you and help you even do that. Is that making sense?
It does. It does. So yeah, I love what you're saying. And I really can relate to what you said about, oh my God, this is, you're asking me to look inside myself. And why is that challenging for a lot of us? Not for a lot of therapists, it is. Why? For a lot of people, of course.
Because we come into this field because we want to help people. No one ever said you're coming into this field to look at yourself in the mirror, not just in the mirror, but with a magnifying glass, and to look at your own relationships and your strengths and the patterns that you're repeating or the patterns that you're not doing and who you are. And then suddenly, if we're real, right? Some people don't do the real work. And we're not talking to those people, because I know you attract people who are like very authentic. But then when we commit to doing really meaningful work, what happens is that our own selves are like, hello, what about me? You're helping all these people. What about me? I'm angry. I'm annoyed. I'm acting out in this way. I've had so many therapists come to me for therapy, and sometimes they have this shame. I'm like, no. You're leaving shame at the door because you are so bold and you are so honest to say, hey, I actually get a seat in this arena of counseling and support. So I think that we don't realize what we're signing up for. Really, maybe unconsciously, it's like, can I heal myself?
Hmm.
Consciously, it's like, no, I'm here to help the community, not the me and the inner community, you know? Yeah.
People people feel that, right? Clients feel that. Feel you're talking about here is authenticity, is a vulnerability that oftentimes when, you know, anyone experiences, we're like, wow, it gives us an invitation in a sense to one, to begin to look inside, and two, to begin to trust. That's huge. That's so powerful.
Yeah, I think it's the trust. I think back to what we're saying about coming home to our bodies. I think that the trust, and I think the trust is one of the biggest pieces. And that's why I think the relational element of, I think about the people who have been invaluable people in my own story of evolving as a person and as a professional. And there have been people that really helped me and then I outgrew them or it wasn't the right fit. I just have to say that because at different phases of life, we might need different things. But that capacity of like being present, being vulnerable, but being very boundaried and clear, right? Because sometimes people say
Mhm.
like, "Oh, you're into somatic," or "Oh, you're so present with your clients." So does it mean, or you're so humane? Does it mean you have no boundaries? Your boundaries got weaker? I'm like the opposite. Boundaries are clearer. If I notice you engaging in a certain way or trying to kind of like divert me here because it got too real, I'll just be like, I just saw what you did. Yeah, something's happening in here that it's something
Mhm.
I'm not feeling comfortable about being in here. Okay, we can tone it down. But it's not that we're more weary, if anything, or it's not that we're more wobbly. If anything, we're clearer. Um, but the trust piece, I would say, is foundational in terms of like when we help people, let's say, come back home to their own selves, I'm not frightened by your symptoms. I'm not frightened. Because you experienced whatever you experienced, your body often is having some kind of fear reaction, which FYI, which I find helps clients a lot, is the fear is in response to something that was frightening and terrifying in the past, right? And it's educating and trauma. What happens is that the past gets collapsed with the present. So the body is experiencing those alarm bells of danger, 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 right?
Mhm.
Again and again and again. And good healing work is actually helping like this was the past where it was dangerous and you probably didn't have anyone, you couldn't be in connection with anyone or yourself. And here we're getting back in touch with that thing that felt danger, danger. We're taking a sliver of it. And I would love to be in connection with you or with that experience. And I'm not terrified. It's not my terror. I know this. This is the face of trauma, or this is right, the stamp of fear, or whatever it is. And then that therapist's trust or the energy in the room is you can, like, I've supported clients going through flashbacks or panic, and I'm like, and your mind and body can tolerate discomfort. Discomfort does not equal danger.
Mhm.
A panic or a flashback is not going to destroy you. Obviously, over good work, and as we do good healing work, we want to lessen the intensity of it and the frequency of it. But some of it is just like if I need to scream or if I need to shake or if I'm panicking, the therapist like the part of it is the therapist tolerating the intensity of it and trusting over time. Okay, I think that's going to lessen, but I'm
Mhm.
meeting you here. And then here's how we're going to help you.
When did you realize the significance and importance of this concept of coming home to our bodies?
When I realized that I was a rock star therapist, and I noticed that there were times that I had a harder time being present in my own relationships. And I would host a lot of, just going personal, I would host a lot of like weekends. I had a lot of friends. Um, and I'd be like spending time with my son. And I noticed like I'm so incredibly present with clients, or I'm so incredibly present at presentations. And when it's coming time to some of my personal relationships, I'm not 100% there. And so I was there. People found me. Like I remember people telling me like, I love your energy. And I remember thinking like, really? Because it's not all of it, you know? And so I was like, life is a matter of, well, back to the life of a therapist, right? For me, it was like, what does it mean to be a therapist? Like, it's not a matter of what we do. It's who I am.
Mm.
I want to be more with the people, with myself, and with the people that matter. And so I think like realizing being more present. And what I realized was like I wanted to let go of some of the noise or the part of me that felt like I needed to always. So it honestly, like as I became more present, or as I committed to being more present, I then had to make some shifts in my life, which it's a daily practice of presence, but some shifts really allowed me then to be more present. And that's what I've committed more to. Like I'll notice that my child will share more with me, or I'll notice certain people will say that they feel more connected, and I know what it is, but
What kind of shifts you're talking about that did you have to make?
okay, so to notice the amount of time that's realistic for certain tasks to take. So I wasn't being realistic of how much time and energy certain tasks would take. And I would just say yes to things because I was afraid of not having everything that I thought I needed. Right. So it was like I need a lot of people, of ideas, of this, that, the other, and filling up all my time versus like be present with an experience or with people. And that's actually more nourishing. So I had to be more intentional with my time. Notice the part of me that felt like I want to put myself in 7 places at once. I had to let go of some commitments or relationships that were in moving in the similar direction as me. That was the hardest part. I think presence is also like, it's hard to sit with people's disappointment and frustration, but then it's also like remarrying myself. And I think the other piece is like honestly doing a deeper layer of my own work, working with a consultant, working with a therapist that can take me deeper. So it wasn't like going to a new territory. It was like helping me be present with what is, because my own experience with a lot of therapists was like, I want to build, I want to do, like I have a group practice. I'm in contract with the book with a new harbinger. I created my course that's approved for CEUs. And then I had a part of me and then someone was like, do you want to open more locations? And I was like, no, I want to be, I want to be, I want to be with what I built. But more than that, I want to be with me. I want to be with Esther. Right. And then I want to be with the people that are in my life.
Mm-hmm. When you consult or talk with other therapists and even people you're working with, what are you noticing about this particular topic? Is this something that a lot of therapists, and maybe it's more indicative of newer therapists, but are you noticing that a lot of therapists are surprised at how important this particular topic is, or are you finding that more therapists, just as you talked about before, rushing from one intervention and one training and workshop and really feeling that that's so important?
Yeah, I think it's people who, I think some people are aware of it. It's almost like, how when we talk about in our lives, in our personal and professional lives, some people speak the same language as us and some people speak a different language. So I think some people speak a similar language, or their interest is piqued when they notice someone. It's not even the conversation, it's an energy right, that they might pick up on. Like I remember somebody once telling me like, what's the intervention you have? And I was like, I don't think it's one. I think it's part of what I've incorporated. I'm happy to share with you like my thoughts on what I practice and who I follow. And I remember once having like a mentor I looked up to, and I remember there was something about her energy that was so easy, but also so real. And I just had a sense that I don't know, this might be, and it was true later on, I learned, but like she had been through a lot of life. And she just had this like energy to her of like, of strength. And it's funny because she was like a tiny little lady. But I do think that some people, like I do notice, and I feel gifted because I was one of those people, I think like rushing until I kind of settled, or it takes time to settle and to know our own groundedness. But I think some people are too busy. Okay, everyone is seeking. I think we're all seeking in different kind of ways. Okay, whatever we're seekers for. We're all seeking for something and for a sense of meaning. But I think the seekers of therapists, some are looking for like diplomas or statuses, or they're curious about something, but they might not know where it's going to bring them to. So some are looking for trainings. I think the ones who are, I just did a masterclass on this about the difference between good therapist to great therapist. And I mentioned Scott Miller because he does a research study. I'm going to connect it in 1 second. He does a research study on rock star therapists, like therapists who have like 65 to 85% higher retention rate than other ones, are the ones who ask for meaningful feedback and who check in on how their clients' experiences are. And that doesn't mean the feedback is always good, but they can tolerate negative feedback and say, hey, buddy, or hey, I want to check in on how this is going for you. And there's that capacity to get honest feedback, listen to it, get advanced consultation, shift the way that they're doing something. So I think those people that have more real humility, I would say, and then an inner confidence, which I know some people have more innately and some have to build over time. I think those are more attuned because if they hear like some of the therapists I work with, when they tell me, hey, Esther, like clients are dropping off after the 4th or 5th session, what's going on? And I'm like, are you open to sharing with me like what might be going on? Usually there's some kind of skill or a lack of matching or a lack of presence or a leadership of the session of here's, I'm going to take you. So I think those who are able to be humble and reflective are the ones who can lean into this a bit more.
Awesome. Esther, you are so friggin' inspiring, man. It's kind of crazy. Look, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
They could Google me. I actually have a new platform and I have a lot of free tools. It's for this new website I created called traumatherapist.co. Traumatherapist, like with S plural, traumatherapists.co. And I have a trauma training that I run twice a year. Honestly, it's more of a community. I remember feeling so lonely and so exhausted and trying to beat traffic to get home for my son and getting all these expert consultations. So I created like an online community for trauma therapists or therapists that want to be trauma informed, where you get support and really embody the skills. So be aware, this is about helping you change and embody the skills so you can do it for your clients. Because people are like, I came here for my clients, but it changed me. And I'm like, that's my goal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or they could we have a counseling practice across New York and our physical location is in Long Island, and that's integrativepsych.co. I love these conversations. Yeah.
I do too. We'll have both of those linked up here at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. Look, you're welcome back anytime. Just love what you're about and your willingness to share you. And I'm hoping that this is what this podcast is about. Always great talking to you. I appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Take care. All right, Esther. Damn, you're amazing.
Hello, I've gone through fucking hell. You're like, I wonder if that's why. And I'm just like,
but yes,
here's my battle scars, and here's
that's
you.
it. That's it. I mean, that's your willingness to show up. That's amazing. Really, it is.
Thank you. I hope it doesn't sound like a therapy session, but I try to be authentic because I want people to feel like it's real. And
that's what my podcast is all about. And I love having you on here. So you're welcome back anytime.
I'm gonna come again. I've had people thank me so much for the last one, by the way, because like I answered your question and you pushed me again. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm grateful for you.
That's awesome. Well, we'll have this linked up in a couple months. I'll let you know when it does.
Okay, so excited. Thank you so much, Guy.
All right. Have an awesome new year. Bye-bye.
Take care. You too.